Good morning. Welcome to day 17 of our 21-day fast. I am looking forward to what today is going to bring. Various things. It's going to be a very full day for me personally. This morning as I was praying and thinking, I was like, Lord, what is a message for today? What is something that you want? What should fasting produce in our lives? What is it that you're wanting? And I came to John chapter 10 where we learn about Jesus, who was the good shepherd. And in this passage, we begin to understand what it is and who our model was of following Jesus. It was Jesus. And as the good shepherd, it talks about that he's always with his sheep. He always cares. He's always there. And that it's different than a hireling. A hireling basically is someone who they get paid to do it. And so they're not going to go off and fight wolves if it's going to cost their life. Jesus calls those people the hirelings. And if there's one thing I've become very aware of in ministry, I've been involved in ministry now for, oh my goodness, I guess 40 years, close to 40 years in some way, shape, or form. And in the process, I've learned that there are people who have great ideas. They think that they're called because they can articulate, because they can speak. But when trouble comes, they run. They don't want to be a part of that. They run and hide. They're scared. There's others who basically, if they don't get paid, I'm not doing that. Ministry's not worth that to me. It's not worth that to anything. This can cost me. It can cost my whole household. It can cost my family. There's expense to this, and it's the difference between what Jesus says, come follow me and die, or, can you join the crowd? It's very interesting that when Jesus just talked to his disciples about following him, he had this crowd around him, and he said, guys, unless you're willing to become those who will eat flesh and drink blood, and in their minds, you realize they had never experienced communion, so they're thinking that he's asking them to become cannibals. He's communicating to them the harsh reality of what it means to follow God. That it's gonna press your senses to the very nth degree. That you're not following a good idea. This is not a wonderful strategy of how to do things. It's going to cost you everything. I remember as a young man, I learned to minister in regardless whatever situation I was in, and I hope that I'm modeling that in such a way that others are doing the same thing. That it's not about you working. If you have a job, you're still called to be a full-time minister. That if you're called to work in a school system, or called to work in government, or you're called to work in the medical field, that just because you're called there does not obligate you to partition your life out where Jesus gets a piece of it. You actually have to give your whole life to Jesus even there. So whether you're an executive or a laborer, the call on your life is to not only look like and walk like Jesus, it's also called to release Jesus wherever you are. Paul's job, when he was between the Praetorian guards as a prisoner, his job was to win them to Christ. The job that is on our lives is that Jesus said, I have bought the rights to your life. I've bought the rights to the difficulties that you're going to walk through. I've paid for those things. They're mine. And when you follow me in every regard. That it's who you are. That calling, if you've really been called by God, you'll do whatever you do, whether you get paid for it or not. I remember coming to this part of the region of the country many years ago, and I remember that there were those who said they wanted revival, they wanted awakening. They don't even live here anymore, but at that point in time, they were like, yes, we want revival, we want awakening in our region. We've been praying for this for years. And the first thing they did was, when we decided, let's go for it, let's do it, they were like, well, how much am I going to get paid to do whatever I do? There was always an obligation of resource and finance, and I've dealt with that over the past several months in various posts, but the reality is that those who follow Jesus, we don't do what we do for pay. If that's why you're doing what you're doing, you've missed the point of what it means to walk with Jesus. Walking with Jesus causes us to do whatever we do, whether we get paid or not. That was the lifestyle of Paul, the lifestyle of all the disciples. And Paul would say that. That's why he made tents. He was like, listen, I'll do whatever I can to carry this gospel. I will carry this thing. I will resource this myself if I have to. But I need to release what it is inside of me. That for me, following God is a point of obedience. It's very interesting that in Hebrews you read about various servants of the Lord, and it's in Hebrews 11, it talks about these great men of faith. Abraham was called one of those. And it's very interesting because in the Old Testament, it wasn't that Abraham was a great man of faith. He just simply obeyed God. And today, there's no difference than from obedience to believing. If you really believe God's called you, then you'll just do whatever he's called you to do. And you're not going to look at the final dollar amount. You're not going to look at the cost on your life. You're going to say, are you joking? I gave that away a long time ago. When I met Jesus, I gave my life away. For me personally, I know for some it's like, wow, how did you how long have you known the Lord? Well, I met Jesus at 5. I was just a kid, but I gave my life to him. Now, obviously, there were subsequent things he did in my life. There were things that mattered. There were moves of the Spirit of God that brought freedom in various areas of my life through the years. But the reality is that I met Jesus at 5, which meant that I should be a disciple at 6. And there's something about walking with Jesus that you begin understanding. He's had my life, my whole life. Some of it, for some of us, the first third of our life, or maybe half of our life, or maybe 3/4 of our life has been wasted on everything else. But Jesus already paid the price a long time ago. And so now's the day. Today's the day. It's day 17. I love the number 17. People are like, why do you like 17? What is 17? 17 always reminds me of 1 Samuel 17. It's where David fights Goliath. It's the ultimate faith chapter to me. It's taking the ridiculous amount of training and equipping that we have or don't have. It's taking the tools we've been given that are in most eyes futile and foolish, and saying, I'm going to take you. I'm going to take you down. It's what I shared a few days ago. How do you take a nation, with a pea shooter? I don't know, but you begin. There's something about following Jesus that you just got to begin. You just got to begin becoming radical. You got to begin that, oh, well, what happens? Could this cost me my job? I don't know. Could it? It might. It's done that for people for generations and decades and centuries. It's cost people jobs. It's cost people relationships. It's cost the ability to look dignified and brought people into prisons. That's following Jesus. That's just basic 101 discipleship. Follow Jesus Christianity. I'm praying today that there will be an extreme amount of release of the Spirit of God through your life, wherever you are. In the school systems, we have a precious sister who is constantly engaged. She has seen so many come to Jesus in the school system, in a public school system. She has seen them literally the Holy Spirit coming on them in the school system. The school system has not fired her, has not sent her out. They talked to her a few times, but they've decided, no, they like what's happening with the students. Maybe what needs to happen in your work that you hate. Maybe what needs to happen in the place that you are, that you struggle with and you want to be somewhere else. Maybe the answer for the joy that you're looking for in what God's called you to do is in you. Maybe it's you releasing Jesus to your colleagues and to your clients. Maybe it's the release of the kingdom with power. Maybe for you, harvest begins today because you've decided, I'm not a hireling. I am not a hireling. I have been called by the Son of God, and I'll do this till the day I die. I pray God's major blessing on you today. Bless you. Talk to you tomorrow.